Okay, so I'm here fixing a McClain unit. The customer didn't report any particular problems, but they've had it for about 7 years. There's over 1,000 hours on it, and wanted someone to check it out. And one of the things I noticed when I turned it on was the smell of ozone, so something was leaking. But also, before I turned the water on or anything, the pump was running, and the other thing I noticed was that little BB in there is showing flow of oxygen out to somewhere, even though right now it's set to go out to the water, and so that's indicating that there's got to be a leak somewhere. And so I've checked it out and did find that there's a leak over by the ozone generator. But yeah, the first problem with it was I fixed this problem as well. But when I first, there's a little water flow switch inside of here. You can't see it, but if I push it in, let me see. In the water. Right now, this is the way it's supposed to be with no water flowing. The diagnostic light is on, because two things have to happen before the ozone turns on. The first is you've got to have water flow, and I'm going to poke my finger in here to simulate turning the water on. And now the pump went on. The diagnostic light still isn't. Oh, okay, I know why. Okay, so when there's two conditions. The water has to be flowing into this unit, and there has to be flow. There's another little flow switch inside here. You have to have feed gas flow, and you have to have water flowing. But then this particular one, as soon as I turned it on, the diagnostic light went off, and that was because this flow switch in here was stuck on. So I simply, to temporarily fix it, I bent, there's a little brass strip with a magnet on it, bent it toward it a little bit so that when the water pushes on it, it turns the switch on. Now it is working the way it's supposed to, so if water goes in, and the ozone generator turns on, and the pump turns on. So the leak problem with this, since that flow switch was not working right, as soon as they would turn the machine on, it would be making ozone, even if the water wasn't on. So it's making ozone, and that ozone was apparently worked its way back. The oxygen goes into this side of the cell. This here is your corona cell. You've got to be a bit careful of this type, because the high voltage is exposed there. I'm going to go unplug this in a minute. Okay, it's quieter now. As I was saying, the problem with this particular unit, since that water flow switch, in case you didn't hear with the noise, there's a water flow switch inside here. As soon as you've got flow, then it turns the ozone generator on. That was stuck open, and for that reason it was just making ozone all the time, whether it was pumping water or not. And since it was making ozone, and the ozone didn't have anywhere to go, it built up inside their corona cell. Normally you've got oxygen coming in on this side in the brown tube, flows through, you got ozone coming out, and that ozone goes up to a needle valve, put some restriction on the ozone. From there it goes to this three-way valve that sends it either out as gas or back over here to the Venturi injector. This is a solenoid valve to turn it on. Goes down, gets pulled into this Venturi here when the pump turns on. So a leak had developed where the oxygen goes in. It's a little brass fitting that crimped onto this plastic tubing, and because ozone was making its way back upstream into the oxygen, I suspect it made that brittle and cracked off. So I put a new fitting on there. This here is the end of the brown that cracked off on the other fitting. I added a little elbow and a Kynar fitting. It's going to hold up. Usually we shouldn't use brass, but this is all I had available right now, and put this Kynar there. So I'm going to hook that up and tighten it. Once that's all tight, then we shouldn't have any oxygen flow. Everything should be tight. That water flow switch is fixed, so when you turn it on, it's just the air compressor running, and that's turning your oxygen concentrator on, so it's making oxygen, but that oxygen is just, it's not going anywhere right now. That's fine. Oxygen concentrator just gets rid of any extra oxygen once it builds up pressure, and it waits for conditions to be right to make ozone. And well, as soon as the water turns on, it'll make ozone and flow out. So I'm anticipating that this is going to fix that leak problem, and the flow switch problem should be okay. And yeah, depending on the use, one of the other problems we see with these is water coming back. This check valve, there's a little check valve in here that's built into the Mozzie injector. After a while, the ozone eats them up. There is a secondary check valve. See, this hose goes through here. We got two other check valves built in here. Those should be replaced at least once a year, if not more. Because if there's a lot of water pressure on the system and they leave the water pressure on, that water can leak past the check valve and either get into your concentrator. I've seen it go all the way back into the ozone generator, and then things aren't going to work so well. Ideally, if you can just disconnect the water entirely from the system, if you're not using it, the machine's going to last a lot longer. Those are some highlights with fixing this McClain unit. Once the unit is on and running, this particular one, it's showing here maybe about 3 amps of power, which is kind of a rough idea of how much power the ozone generator is using. And this particular one, when I tested it, it was putting out about 3 ppm dissolved ozone at 5 gallons a minute. At about 25 gallons a minute, it was down to about 1 ppm. It depends a lot on the water quality and the water pressure. If you got any questions, contact us at Oxidation Technologies. We've got our website, oxidationtechnologies.com. My name is John Huizinga. Thank you. Yeah, a few things regarding the ozone generator and some of the other parts of this McClain Ozone System. If you would happen to get water backed up past the check valve and you end up getting water in the ozone cell, it's not, there is some glass there where you can see it, but you're going to know if you take the ozone line off down here, and if you've got water or nitric acid or problems like that, if it's rinsed out with distilled water and then some methanol or something like that, you might be able to get that dried out. You dry it out with a lot of oxygen flow. Just run oxygen through it for a long time. If the inverter board or the transformer are faulting and we're just not getting any ozone, we're a little bit limited with our options. We do have a retrofit kit. We can't get the replacement parts for these, but we do have a different type of ozone generator that we can retrofit and make the system work again. One of the things we have to do, since some of the controls are built into the ozone generator board, got to change a few things up in the front, but really the only important thing is make sure we've got water flow and oxygen and turn our ozone generator on. That's fairly easy to achieve with a relay and a few different controls. The air compressor, we do have those in stock if your air compressor fails. The oxygen concentrator, we've got a different style that's a lot more cost effective than these, but there's lots of things that we can retrofit and make work with these systems. If you need parts or instructions, we'd be happy to help you out with that at Oxidation Technologies. Thank you.